So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have David Houghton on. Now, myself and David have just finished up working with me in the 1% Blueprint, but I actually have known David quite a lot longer than that. We did a bit of work. He helped me with some videos and bits and bobs back just coming out of the pandemic. And so I think we've known each other for a while. But more recently, David engaged with me with the 1%. And I wanted to get David on to talk about his experience for, I guess, a couple of reasons, the usual thing. I think anyone talking about if you are struggling with work life, the demands of business and everything else that's going on, story about how we take ownership of that is quite powerful. But equally, I think David works in quite a fast-paced creative industry. He works for himself as well, and there's also the extra demands around that. And so a conversation about how you can sort of navigate the course of that in amongst everything else is very helpful, because I know a lot of gents that I work with aren't just corporate guys who work for themselves and all those moving parts and all the stresses, but the positives that come with that. Before we jump off, David, do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit about you, what you do, what life's like for
Yeah,
you?
yeah. So I'm David. I'm a freelance director and cinematographer, and do a range of different things, everything video production wise. I'm a father of one to a little girl who's going to be 4 next week,
Nice.
and a fiance to my partner Chloe.
So, lots going on, right? Lots of moving parts.
Lots going on. Yeah,
Yeah. And also a fellow Northerner, right? You live where I'm from
yeah,
originally right at the moment.
yeah, yeah,
Sunny
yeah. So
Manchester.
living in the quiet parts, I think.
Nice.
trying to stay out of London, but always working in London.
Yeah. So, well, let's kick the conversation off then. And I think a good place to start, as always, is what was going on for you a few months back. And so, as I said earlier, I think we knew each other, and you followed me and seen me for quite a while because of the work we did historically. And then you reached out a few months back in terms of look, I could do with a little bit of help. What was going off with you back then that made you go, right? Actually, I want to talk to someone like me, a coach, to sort of
Yeah.
do a little bit of work and get a bit of help.
Well, I think if I was to go back to our very, very first conversation, and it's something that happens every year, and I think in my industry especially, December is normally chaotic because people are trying to get things done before the new year and before people break for New Year. But then January is always really, really slow. And it's always like that year on year. It's always like that. And I don't know what it is. Whether the clients that I work with in that sort of space, they just take a little while to sort of get back into things. But during that time is always when I have the biggest. It's like a double-ended sword. I don't know if that's the right saying, but I've got all the time in the world, but I've also got the most stress in the world because I've not got like the financial income that's like recurrent every month, and et cetera, et cetera. So it was a space where had the time to sort of give to something like this. Whereas if I'd have tried to do this maybe in like May or June or July, it would have been very difficult to do. Also paired with the fact that in May, June and July, it's sunny, I'm happy, work's busy, life's different. It's like your mindset's completely changed as well. So I think it was kind of like the marry of two things. And then, like you said, we've worked together in the past. As I explained on the first call, I've tried different things in the past before, and I just thought I need to just reach out to Luke and just see what the blueprint can offer, and what that can offer for me, and what that can do for me. So yeah, that was why I reached out.
And I think it's obviously exact circumstances unique, right? But a relatively
Yeah.
common story, which is kind of like hell for leather over the last year or so. Work's been booming, lots going on.
Mm.
Um, Probably, well, not probably, definitely compromising some of your own physical and mental well-being at the altar of doing that. And rightly so, you've got your business, you want to push that forward. But then I think we discussed recognizing that sort of looping pattern of behavior. Well, I know it gets quiet in January, and I know I get in my own head. And
Mm.
actually, I know, although conversely, I've got more time, my head isn't in a good space. I'm reeling from all the work I've just done, and recognizing that I don't want to just repeat that same kind of getting into a funk and getting stressed. And hold up, maybe there's a different way I can look to take care of myself more acutely in that quieter phase, but equally build some of those foundations for when it's hectic. Because as you know,
Yeah.
we can build those in when it's mental. That's part of what I bang on about all the time. It doesn't matter. But actually having an opportunity when it is a bit calmer to set those foundations, I think is also a
Helpful.
nice place to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very. And I think what you were just saying then about giving yourself the space to work on yourself, I think that's, if I'm being completely honest, since having Aria, myself has become third in priority list, or if not further down, if I'm honest. So things like the gym and trying to eat healthy and exercise and all that sort of stuff just takes a little bit of a hit, especially when you're busy. Um, so again, it was just like from that side of things, and then like during our conversations and during the first initial conversations and the first calls and things like that, and it's all about give yourself some time, give yourself some space, stop being so hard on yourselves. Like you're doing all right, just focus like a little bit. And I think it was nice because it wasn't overwhelming in the sense that it was right, go to the gym for 2 hours, 5 times a week, do this, start running, do all of this and this and this. It was just like little pockets of time to work on myself and to do things for me that in the grand scheme of things in a day don't like it doesn't take up too much time, but it makes a big difference, which is I think one of the other things that really helped initially.
Yeah, and I guess the other part of that well, there's a few things there. One, that you coming down the pecking order, in terms of self-care,
Mm,
and I can relate to that, and I know any of the guys and ladies, it's mainly guys who listen to this, listening and watching this would recognize that, and it doesn't come from like a bad place, quite the opposite. Like you
mm,
wanna support your family, you wanna be there for your daughter, you wanna be there for your partner, and so giving everyone else everything else. But then if you then don't take care of yourself, what then happens is everything and everyone else starts to get a lesser diluted version of you
mm,
of that. I think throw into that as well, you are a creative and you work in the creative industry. And I think especially for you, you need a bit of headspace and bandwidth to think
yeah,
creatively and laterally and come up with those ideas and that kind of fun stuff. And if you're like really in it and you haven't got any time for yourself and you're not doing those basics to take care of yourself, and swap creative for, I don't know, strategist of someone who's in a senior business or whatever. It's the same difference, right? But if you haven't
yeah,
got any of that bandwidth, it's very hard to do your best work, right? But not only that, you don't feel great in and of yourself because you're not taking care of yourself as best you can. But the trap, I think, with everyone really, as you're saying, is you think it needs to be loads of time spent to do these things, but actually what we can show you and what we learn is that there are small compounding things that just done relatively consistently can have quite a profound impact, and that
yeah.
then can help you start to work on those other pieces because, like, I wish I could have said over January, right, I'm going to give you 10 new clients that are going to pay you a load of money. It's going to be great. I can't do that, right?
I wish I could as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'd be a billionaire if I could, right? But equally, can we get you to a place where you're not in an anxiety state, you're on top of stuff, you're being objective, you're looking at your situation and getting the most out of yourself? Well, then the answer to that is yes. And so it doesn't materially change the external stresses you've got going on, but it puts you in a place where you're better armed and able to deal with what those things are, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that just goes back to our conversation that we had yesterday on the call. And it's, I was saying that it's the stresses haven't changed. And we were saying it's been a really odd year this year. And everyone that I've spoken to in the creative space, it's been a really odd year. And it's exactly that. Like the stresses and the issues haven't changed. If anything, they've probably got worse because obviously now we're 3 months into the year and some stuff's come in, but not a lot of stuff's come in. So it's that sort of side of stuff. But it's odd that I don't feel like I'm about to go batshit crazy. I'm just take each day as it comes, keep doing what I'm doing, and systems are just falling into place. But then I think that just goes back to like the little things that I've changed, the tiny little things that I've changed, change your headspace. Like I think the biggest thing that resonated with me, and I always go back to cold showers because one of the
Mhm.
first things that you said was it's like a small win for the day. If you can do that, you can do anything and you can get yourself through anything. It's just a mindset thing. And it is genuinely, I think it really is for me because I get in the shower, I get a cold shower and I get out and I think, right, let's take on the day. I'm invincible. Let's just get through it, sort of thing. So, had I not had those little habits, then I think things would be very different right now.
Yeah. And it's awesome that's as it is. But I think we spoke about this before as well, David, like both me and you individually and on the calls. I think it's those little self-esteem pieces that come along for the ride with those little wins. So it's like, I think one of the gents was at a different call. Were like, "Oh, I got out and then I forgot that." Oh, I didn't forget. Maybe I forgot. I used inverted commas. Forgot to have a cold shower. But then they go, "No, I meant to have a cold shower." Right, I'm gonna get back in and do it now. Like that bit of, "Oh, I didn't," and the person there, like, no one else in the world is going to see that they haven't had a cold shower. They just get on with their life, right? But they
Mm,
know, and so
mm,
that bit of, "No, I'm going to get back in and do it." Like there's the physiological benefits, it releases adrenaline, a bit of cortisol is good, blah, 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 all that stuff, great. It's not that, it's the self-esteem that goes, I said I was gonna do something, I almost didn't, but I did. That feels really good, and so it's not a panacea to fix all the problems you got going on, but
Mm,
the version of you that does that and makes that decision is a different version than the one that goes, "Oh, fuck it," you know? And I think if when there's more of that built up around what's going on, you're then starting to control those elements within your life that you do have control over. With the business pieces, you can do everything you can in terms of getting, you know, marketing out and talking to people and all the rest of it, and you can do your very best there. But there's a point at which there is fundamentally no more you can control, and so if you're able to let go of that, but then equally, if your own personal stuff, habits, behaviours, how you interact with your daughter, your missus, all those things, if they're in a better place and you're on top of those, they are things that are within your control. And so then I think that's the place from which you go, well, okay, there are stresses, but I'm cool because I'm on top of the
yeah,
things that I need to be for me, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, couldn't say it any better. Yeah, that's it exactly. Yeah,
And then what would you say then and look, it's been a relatively short space of time from when we started to where we are now, right? And so,
yeah. 2 months.
yeah, so it goes quick as well, right?
Yeah, very.
What would you say has been the biggest thing that you've learnt having come through the process? And notwithstanding you're in there with other gents as well, right? And so being kind of immersed in that, what would you
Um,
say has been the key takeaway?
Difficult question. I think biggest one for me is give myself some space. I think part of my biggest, well, I know for a fact one of my biggest issues is, I think it's probably partly to do with being a creative person, but probably not. But very, very self-critical and very sort of, I'll be the first person to kick myself down and say that
Mm.
I'm not good enough and say that I'm not thing. But I think through different conversations with different people and different conversations with yourself on calls, it's and through like the 5 reasons why exercise and the journaling and stuff like that, I think it's made me realize that I'm just a bit too hard on myself and that I could be a bit more positive about the way that I think about things and just change the way that I do think about some things in terms of like client work, client feedback, how the business is going and things like that. Sometimes where I'd probably spiral, and then the exercises and the learnings have then said, okay, well, like that 5 reasons why, or is it the is that the same one that's like the why you can, why you can't?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what, yeah.
So that I think that's been a really, really good one for me because then now when issues come up for me, I'm not thinking like, oh, yeah, I can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. You know, this, you know, can't do that by then, or whatever. I think, right, well, what can I do? I can do this by now. I can do this right now. I can do this tomorrow, and then it just helps in a lot of different scenarios, and even not even work related. It's sort of goes back to spending time with Aria, and it's like, I can't do that because I need to work. But then I'm like, oh, well, what can I do then? So I can go down and be present while I'm making lunch instead of going down and taking my phone down and answering messages while I'm cooking lunch. It's like that 20 minutes in your day where you're cooking lunch is don't need to be sat on your, you know, trying to answer client stuff and things like that. Just spend it with your daughter and your partner and actually be present. So just loads and loads and loads of little learnings. I think to sum it up, goes back to just the small incremental changes that you just pick up and you learn, and then it just changes your habits.
Yeah, I love what you just said there because that's that bit about, well, what elements can I control? And we started off talking about very practical behavioural things for
Mm-hmm.
you, right? But that bit, I want to be more present with my daughter. Well, does that mean I have to spend a day at Legoland every week? No, of course
Yeah,
you can't do that, right? So what can that look like? Well, when I'm making my lunch and she's here, I can not be on my phone and be talking to her and
yeah,
chatting to her. But then that's a little pocket of engagement that you've loved, you're present, and that's ultimately what your life is. It's built up of those bits. That same situation could have happened. You could be on your phone and being a bit there, and she's pestering you, and you're a bit annoyed. Like, but again, after that, you know how you've dealt with it and how different that's been. And I think that's where you can have quite a profound impact on how you feel day to day. Well, like,
mm,
not a lot's changed, but it's all those little interactions because they're your life, right? The way you interact with your partner or your daughter or
yeah,
a client or whatever else. And if you can improve those by you being a bit more conscious around what you do, I think that has a big impact. The same happened with me and Cleo. So our youngest is 5 in the morning, and she was what was it she wanted to play? I think we were playing Monopoly Deal or something. Anyway, she wanted to play this game, and I was like busy like first in the morning doing the usual bits like, empty the dishwasher. Daddy, I want to play. And I was just in 2 minutes. And I was just like, I had a conversation like this with somebody else. And I was like, hold up. What would you say to a client you're talking to is like the fucking dishwasher or whatever it is that you're
Yeah.
putting off for the morning, that can wait. What will actually be much more beneficial and you would enjoy and she'll love is 20 minutes. And then we sat down, we played Monopoly Deal, she cheated and beat me and it was all fun. It was great. We had a great time. And did the dishwasher get emptied eventually? Of course it did. And did the world end?
Mm.
No, it fucking didn't. But like, and I'm not saying like I'm a perfect saint, I get all that right all the time, but it's that if you've done that sort of work to look at yourself a bit deeper, what can I do? What can't I do? You can't unlearn that, and that's like in the back of your mind. And you go in the wild, in real life, you can just go, oh, hold up, what's important here? And it ain't the fucking dishes. It's clear. Do you see what I mean? Same thing with like your daughter at lunch or whatever else.
She got me yesterday really good. Like we do a little pinky promise thing, and we say like, "Oh, we don't break pinky promises." Blah 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 blah. And I was working downstairs, which was part of the thing that Ad was doing as well. If it was just me and Ari, I'd work downstairs so that she could play, and I was there, and I was somewhat
Yeah,
present, better than being up here.
yeah.
Um, I'd said when I finished doing, something, I was like, she wanted to build a tower. She wanted to make a giraffe out of like little tower blocks and stuff. And I said, I pinky promise when I've done this, we'll do it. And I did it, and then someone had messaged me something else, so I was trying to get on with it, and she was like, "Hey, can we don't do it?" And then she was like, you pinky promise, and we don't break pinky promises." And I was just like, "Do you know what? That is, yeah,
You
like
bust me
you
there.
called me out for my own bullshit there." I
Yeah,
was just like, put the laptop down, put it on charge upstairs, and just went down and we just played for like a good hour. And
I love
it
that.
was that
And that
exact
message was fine.
thing.
The fight was all right. It
Yeah,
was all good, right? That's it.
yeah.
But I think
The
what's
world
good with
doesn't
that is
end.
as well is you can you can check yourself. You just go, and none of us are
Yeah,
perfect. But you go, hold up. Now you could have doubled down and go, this is really important. Daddy has to work and da, da, da. And that is an option. You wouldn't have felt good. There would be no difference in the outcome from the client. And then there's
no,
just a little bit of thing that you missed with your daughter. And so it's just, I think, being able to be more conscious to make these decisions in life as it's happening is really important. And that's like you said, because you say what's changed and what have you what's the key learning. I think it's like it's not like here's a special habit for doing that. It's like no, like that comes as a more emergent property of us doing some behavioral practical stuff to take care of yourself, but then also
yeah,
just challenging some of your own patterns of thinking around like, well, can I do that, and is that not possible, and just looking at things a bit differently allows you to do that, right?
yeah, definitely.
Has your missus, has she noticed a difference in your general outlook and demeanour?
I don't know, but hopefully. She said to me the other day, I mean, I know weight wasn't really something that I was massive on, but she said to me the other day, she said, "You are looking skinny." I said, "We don't say skinny, we say lean."
Leaning.
I said, "Boys
Exactly,
don't want to be skinny."
exactly.
But no, I think so. I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of those things around the weight piece there is that, like, when we spoke, like, that wasn't a catalyst for you at all,
No,
right? But it's quite nice having that come along for the ride because, again, we talk about the self-esteem and not because of society and
mm,
weight and all that bollocks. It's about you and how you feel, and if you start to look better, feel better, that feels good for you because that's you. This is your body, right? And it's
yeah.
part of you.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's still now the weight's not really like a big thing for me, but I think it's what's come with that in terms of, I wouldn't say I was a very sedentary person, but I do sit at my desk all the time when I'm editing, especially. But I think it's the things that have come with that in having the goal and the target to hit 10K steps a day, which is a really small goal and whatever, blah blah blah. But even just having that, it changes your outset and your thought of like, oh well, what can I do at lunch? I'll go for a walk instead of just sitting downstairs. I'll take a sandwich or I'll take, some like some chicken in a box and then just go for a walk or something. So little things like that, I think I've changed. So that's been, if anything, the better part of it,
Yeah.
because then you're outside in fresh air as well, and it's just there's more benefits to that as well.
Well, with that bit, I mean, very basic stuff. Like I say, basic because they're really important, but things like the steps, like there's okay, physiologically, humans, we should be moving about, we should be sedentary all the time. So there's that. That's important. But again, talking about being present, but like you want to be creative, you want to think well, you want to do your best work. If you've been sat at your desk for 10 hours straight, you are not going to be getting the best out of yourself like that. And so, having a bit of a break where you leave your desk, go for a walk around the block, and all that, that's also really important. And so there's two parts to it. One part is the just generally it's good for our overall health, but also for just how you feel and how you structure your day and getting the most out of yourself, professionally and at home. Well, then we need to have gaps in space. That loops back to what we said right at the start about giving yourself some headspace. Like, and if you are just on it, and that's the thing. I think if you're in a place where you were when we first spoke, which is coming to a quiet phase, worrying about work, maybe clients, we think the way we solve that is by sitting at our desk and trying to grind it out and just moving the mouse around for 3 hours if you're
And
not
oh,
working. Like, that ain't going to do anyone any favors, and you know it isn't. But then you neglect all the other things. Well, now you're not being diligent with that, but you're just doing what you can and what's realistic, and having some boundaries
mm,
around that to get the most out of it, but also taking care of yourself. And so it's the same situation, but you're better able to deal with it. That's kind of how I see it, right?
yeah, and I think off the back of that, I think my previously where I was when we very first started was doing exactly that, moving my mouse around, pretending I was working for 3, 4 hours a day, has now changed to me going out for a walk, talking to ChatGPT about how I'm feeling, and then off the back of that, doing like a constructive conversation with ChatGPT about things that I could be doing. Have I checked this? Have I done that? Have I revisited clients that I've spoken to, and etc. 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 So I think like that side of it is it's a much healthier way of doing stuff. And it's like, I'm not sat at my desk all day, every day. I'm not stressing because I'm not sat at my desk all day, every day. And I'm not thinking like there's other things that I'm doing to contribute to the bigger picture. So I think,
Yeah.
again, that has helped a lot. Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're making that time productive, whereas before you'd have
Yeah.
been sat working in
I
commas,
was
but you're not
pretending it
really
was
doing
productive.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I think we can all be guilty of that, but I think it's recognising
Yeah.
there's better ways. Um, so let's say if someone's sitting listening to this, David, and um, they were maybe in a similar spot to you were a couple of months back. Um, things not quite working, recognizing the stuff to change, but can't quite necessarily see the wood for the trees and work out what or why. What would you say to someone who's back in your shoes, who's maybe potentially thinking about engaging in a process like this? What would you say to them?
I mean, I'd do it and don't look back, put everything into it and just go for it. It you owe yourself a lot more than you're giving yourself, and there's a lot more to life than being stressed and things like that. But more importantly, I think taking the learnings and taking the daily habits and all that sort of stuff, implement it into your life, you will actually see results and you will actually feel better.
And look, you're a prime example of it, right? You know, you were struggling a bit when we spoke. You've turned up,
Hmm.
you've showed up. When things haven't been working, you put your hand up and discussed it, because that's a core part of it as well. Is like there's things we need to do, but if something's not working, well, it's interrogate it and ask the questions and go, "Oh, maybe I messed up." And on the other side of that, you get to where you are now in a really good, empowered place. Is there more work to do? Yeah, that's part of life, but actually
Yeah,
leveled up in a much more empowered place to deal with what's going on. And that's what's great. Like you said at the start, like right now, business and life and work's no less stressful, if not more so. But you're not here pulling your hair out, freaking out. Quite the opposite. You're like, right, I'm cool. We can deal with it. And I think
yeah.
that's where the magic is, right? Nice. Well, on that note, David, I know you're busy, so I won't take up any more of your time. If anyone is watching or interested in working with me and how I can help, drop me a note in the comments or find me a DM. David, it's been a pleasure. You're an absolute legend. And I'll see
Thank
you
you.
all next week. Thank you.